Hi everyone, you're welcome back to the channel. I'm Cilla Si Travis back with another video. So I'm going to show you how to draft a sleeve for a drop shoulder shirt. Although this is for a loose fitted shirt, but this principle can be applied to a close fitted garment. So I have my pattern paper already on fold and I've drawn out the top line. So before we begin, I need to refer to my shirt pattern. Now from this point to this point is my actual shoulder length measurement, which is 5 inches. But in order to get the drop shoulder effect, I increase this 5 inches by 2 inches. Okay, so that means I dropped the shoulder length by 2 inches. Now, before we proceed, take note that I will be drafting the pattern together with the seam allowance. Okay, so my seam allowance will be added to my measurement. Now, to begin, I'm going to mark down from the top line 1/2 an inch. So this is the seam allowance that will be around the sleeve edge. I'm going to just square out this point. So my length measurement is going to start from this short line. Okay, now the actual length of my sleeve is 24 inches, but because we dropped the shoulder of the shirt with 2 inches, I need to subtract this 2 inches from the full length of my sleeve. Okay, so I'm going to place that 2 inches on that short horizontal line and then measure down 24 inches and then square across this point. So this line becomes my wrist line. Next, we need to mark the cap height. So the average cap height is between 5 to 6 inches. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use 5 inches. Now, to get a cap height for the drop shoulder sleeve, you need to subtract the 2 inches from the 5 inches. So that 2 inches you dropped your shoulder length with must be subtracted from this 5 inches, which is the average cap height. Now, measuring from this short line, I'm going to measure down 3 inches and then square across. This line becomes the bicep line. Okay, next I'm going to take my wrist measurement like so. So you want to take this measurement, you don't want this measurement to be tight. Okay, you want it to be loose enough to let your end go in and out. Okay, so this measurement gives me 9.5 inches. Next, I'm going to divide this 9.5 inches into 2, and then I'll come in from the folded edge of my pattern paper on the wrist line and mark this. Next, I'm going to add in 1/2 an inch as my seam allowance. The next measurement we need to draft the sleeve is the armhole measurement. To get the armhole measurement, you need to take the armhole measurement of your garment. So this is the shirt I'm working on. The front armhole gives me 9¼ inches, while the back armhole gives me 9 inches. To get the armhole measurement, you need to add both together and divide it by 2, which gives me 9⅛ inches. Now, measuring from the top line, okay, because we're drafting this with the seam allowance, so we've got to measure from the top line. I'm going to mark this 9⅛ inches on the bicep line. Now I'm going to connect both points together like so, and then divide this line into 4 equal parts. Now, to form the curve of the sleeve edge, you need to go upward from this point 1/4 inch, and then come down from this point 1/8 inch. Now, using my French curve, I'm going to connect this point together to form the sleeve edge. Next, you need to take the measurement of the sleeve edge like so. So you want this measurement to be at least your armhole measurement, or just 1/2 inch more than your total armhole measurement. Okay, so if it's not adequate, you need to move this point out, but if it's too much, you need to move this point in. So this is the back of the sleeve. Next, I'm going to connect both points together to form the side seam of the sleeve. Next, I'm going to draft out a short sleeve from this pattern. Now, measuring from this point, because the top point is the seam allowance, so measuring from this point, I'm going to mark down my desired length, which is 6.5 inches, and then square across a horizontal line. Now, on this line, I'm going to mark my arm circumference. So you want to take the circumference of that length. Mine is 14 inches, and then divide it by 2. So that gives 7. And then I'm going to add ½ inch seam allowance. Next, I'm going to use my French curve to connect both points together to form the side seam for the short sleeve. Next, I'm going to fold in my hem allowance and cut out the pattern. Now for the front part of the sleeve, I'm going to trim off 1/8 of an inch from the sleeve edge, okay? So do take note of what I'm doing. I'm just coming down strategically 1/8 of an inch below the top of the sleeve. Now you want to make sure you have a smooth transition from the underarm blending into the center of the sleeve edge. So once I'm sure of getting a smooth line, I'll go ahead and trim off this 1/8 of an inch. So when trimming down this 1/8 of an inch from the front part of the sleeve, you want to make sure it is blended into the back of the sleeve. So do take note of that. You want to have a smooth transition from the front part of the sleeve edge blending into the back of the sleeve edge. At this point, I'm just marking out my seam allowance, which is already in the pattern, okay? So remember, I drafted this pattern together with the seam allowance. And we've come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you find this helpful. If you do, remember to leave a comment, like this video, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet subscribed. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on my next one. Bye-bye.